said in the text, I am happy to have conversations on the phone and in person. I just don't want these written one-way communications. So she doesn't remotely understand because she thinks I'm closing the door to conversation entirely. And I'm just closing the door to passive-aggressive, cowardly bullshit one-way preaching because that's not a fucking conversation. That's not how you engage with people. That's not how you show your love. And while they're convinced that I'm coming back to Jesus, while they're convinced that this is the message that the Lord wanted them to send, I'm now going to take it and flip it on its head and broadcast it to the entire fucking world that this is the exact opposite of what you should do if you're trying to convince somebody that yours is a true religion about love, that you care about people. This is not it. This threatening, passive-aggressive nonsense is not what it is. And so this is going to have the exact opposite effect of what they intended, because there are going to be thousands of atheists who see this who are going to say, wow, that's the same crap I've dealt with my family, and it's breaking my heart, because it breaks my heart too. And so instead of being something that uplifts their religion in the Lord, it's going to be used to deliver more people from religious oppression, from being the sidelined individual that gets stuck in a corner at Christmas and other holidays because everybody else is talking about religion and talking about them while they're still in the room. Oh, well, Matt's still an atheist. You bet he is. This didn't do anything but break my heart and cement the fact that I am on the side of righteousness, that of the three of us, I'm the only one who has a good understanding of love, of civility, about how to act and interact with people. And it's going to let a lot of other atheists know that you are not alone. And one of the best things you can do is draw boundaries around your life. I had to make a decision the other day before I sent that text message. If this ends my relationship...
ma gueule de n'avoir jamais gagné.
Ouais, c'était pas fort là. Apparently my hun bugged halfway through the downloads.
Aïe, t'as pas downloadé le patch?
Il était en train de downloader, puis là ça disait not responding.
Ouais, le serveur il disconnect. Ben là il est retourné.
C'est quoi ton opinion sur les cannes à chien?
S'il Taylor Hall, ça se peut que je regardais, mais ils ont pas eu Taylor Hall, fait que boring. Dude, une équipe qui est centrée sur un gardien de but, là.
Ah, c'est un service, là.
Exactement. Mais c'est quand qu'on va avoir un choix de premier... c'est quand qu'on va avoir le premier choix du draft. Il me semble qu'on n'a jamais ça à Montréal.
C'est parce qu'on est trop bon.
Ouf.
Le lion.
NHL.com, allons voir. Est-ce qu'on qualifie même pour les séries? Hein?
Non. Non, les cloches.
C'est avec...
Oh, Chris.
What's up?
This O. Henry Reese.
It's amazing, huh?
Next level.
Yeah.
J'ai du goût.
Fait que, Guillaume, c'est quoi le but de finir 12e quand tu peux finir 16e?
Il n'y a pas de but. You just get a higher chance at the lottery to get the first pick.
Yeah, so, like, why? Why don't they just throw games?
Well, you should never underestimate the value of alienating the fan base.
Ben, moi, je suis un fan.
In 12e, you give a good show. Like, you have a shot at the playoffs. Finish last and you're eliminated halfway through the year.
Je comprends, but like...
Ça coûte énormément d'argent.
Je comprends, but like... I'm a fan. I want to get a first pick. I don't want to get like a 5th pick.
I know. Well, once you get to the draft, you're happy to get the first pick, but... Like, the whole year, you get to watch meaningless games?
No. Let's say the last 20 games, you just throw every single game. Like, don't even put a goalie.
20 games is 2 months.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay, just lose 10 games.
So, like, nobody goes to the game and you lose so much money.
Are you allowed to just pull your goalie every game? Just play without a goalie?
I don't think so. I think the league would prevent
Plus, il est tellement fiche.
Je pense pas que la ligue elle permettrait ça, pour être honnête.
Ça serait hot quand même voir de l'abus.
Des scumbags, là.
Sérieux, moi j'essaierais d'abuse comme ça.
Mais c'est sûr que la ligue, elle accepterait pas. So apparently, I'm only 64% in because the client is bugging or something.
God, this...
Well, Andromeda has top win rate.
Yesterday.
Whoa.
Je sais pas comment dire cela en français. Mais, yeah, I was being a dick yesterday.
No, speak in English. French, you speak really well.
Yeah, that was...
Merci, j'ai beaucoup pratiqué l'année dernière.
Whoa, that's pretty good.
Yeah, you almost don't have an accent.
Dude, tu sonnes québécoise.
Parfait, c'est ça que c'était mon but.
Not bad.
Je suis impressionné.
Alors là, il faut parler en bon français ou si on parle comme des vrais Québécois?
Non, Guillaume, parle en français de France, s'il
Whoa.
vous plaît.
Oui, Matt.
We just have to speak the way we normally speak, which is franglais. Fiona can
No.
understand franglais.
Mais non,
Yeah, I'm good en
Christopher.
anglais.
Moi, je suis pas d'accord pour tout.
Wait, can we fork you? Or does that not work? Are you playing Fiona?
They have revived it.
Nice, okay. Well, are you playing?
I am, as soon as this fucker downloads.
Okay.
Okay, say that in French, though.
That's pretty esoteric.
C'est quoi ton obsession là avec l'ésotérisme?
It's a very useful word. Man, how many calories do you think we ate today? That was pretty disgusting.
I thought you didn't count calories.
I don't, but that was pretty disgusting.
Well, let me tell you right off the bat, your Hershey, your O. Henry bar was
300. 300. I
Yeah,
checked.
it was 1/7 of your intake for the day.
Yeah, it's pretty cringe. Then
And
I
you had a lot of chips, so that must have been like another 600 calories.
add 2 glasses of wine.
I think that's 70.
No, wine is pretty dense.
Let's see, 83 calories per 100 grams. So it was like 300 calories then. That pizza is like... How much of the pizza did you eat?
I ate 2 pieces, 2 slices.
That's only 700 then.
Only 700 for 2 slices?
Yeah, I think it's 350 per slice.
That's ridiculous. Okay.
But you had a marathon, so your marathon is like 1,500 calories.
Yeah. And I ate 2 gyros, so
2 gyros? Okay, that's like
Yes.
2,000.
yes.
Okay, so you're popping 4,000 or 5,000 on the day.
Are you serious? Wow.
That's a whole extra pound.
I'm actually tilted. Well, if you're wondering why I was toxic, that might be why.
We're past it. I think you need to bring coffee next time. That way, nobody's gonna be toxic. Because I think we were all toxic.
I think Shelly, and I don't know if Shelly's listening right now, Shelly was the most toxic. Even worse than me.
Is Fiona playing with us?
Yes.
I spent last week in Ottawa.
No shit.
Yeah, I think we're gonna make that an annual thing. So I don't know, maybe next year, if you guys are available, we should meet up and do a dinner or something.
Ooh, that sounds fun. What
Be sweet.
What were you doing there?
My husband's younger brother and his wife live there now, and my husband's mom lives there as well. So we're
It's
just
kind of
visiting
far,
family.
though, isn't it? From Alberta?
Oh yeah, from Alberta. Yeah, we flew out last Sunday and then came back this Sunday that just passed.
Okay, what'd you guys do? Is my mic working?
It is. Is mine not? I know my fucking Han was like not letting my Discord trigger last night, and I don't know why, and it was...
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. So if I have Han maximized, my mic doesn't work. But yeah, we got an Airbnb just so the kids could run wild and just kind of hung out. Didn't make any plan.
Yeah.
I was pretty burned out after this busy season.
We're looking for gift ideas. I mean, I know you're not really a girl, but you know, you're still a woman. What should we get for women for Christmas?
What do they like?
Dude, I don't know. What do women like?
I'm told like flowers and jewelry are generally a good bet. Flowers. Are you guys? You have a party going already?
Yes.
Yep.
Nice, 4 Qs. Yeah, I'm only going to stream on YouTube now because it automatically saves all my streams.
The people will figure out.
Testy on Twitch. Sorry, go on.
No, it wasn't really interesting what I was going to say.
You're going to say I'm abusing YouTube?
No, I was going to say the people who realize how to like steal market share from YouTube by offering like a non-banning platform are going to make a lot of money. Even though YouTube doesn't make a lot of money.
Well, yeah, I mean, it costs a lot of money, and like guys like me who just stream 1080p all day and like nobody watches it, it just loses them a lot of money.
Yeah, so you have to cut down on that. Like, you'd have to, like, that would be the trade-off.
Okay, then I'm just gonna go back on Twitch.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, you're just looking for content creators and people to watch it. Maybe the second game I could play Witch Slayer, because I'm kind of feeling a Witch Slayer. And Chris could carry.
I'm gonna roam. Well, you feel like playing Witch Slayer? Okay.
Next game. I'll carry this game.
I'm just gonna try restarting Discord to see if it'll quit doing that shit with prioritizing Han and not letting me use my. I'll be right back.
Choose wisely.
Oh, they banned my Swiftblade.
Andromeda is a carry now?
I don't know. I want to play a roaming. Maybe roaming Magmus. Let me pick first.
Yeah, I don't want to pick first.
Maybe roaming B. Okay, this is pretty brain dead. No brains required to play Magmus.
Magmus is a great champion. He has a stun, he has an escape, he has AoE.
Pretty much. He's a tank.
He can initiate.
Yeah, he's a strength hero.
tank.
He's a tank.
He can push, or split push. Yikers. So definitely not mainstream. Dampy.
I think I can pick this guy.
Oh.
Armadan.
Yike.
Well, I think Armadon's
This is not
decent.
good.
I mean, Armadon is pretty good against Vindicator.
Oh, I thought Matthew was playing Clanks. Needed a frontliner. But still. Armadon can be good.
Zephyr.
Okay, we need some ranged.
Electrician.
True. Okay, we got an empath.
Like, I'm sort of ranged only when I'm ulted. We need some...
Yeah, they're pretty tanky. Something that can melt them.
Yeah. Maybe some, like, AoE would be nice. Like an Alonia or something. Why? This is a little problematic.
Yeah, we don't have a great team.
Should try and remake. I'm a big fan.
Hellbringer.
Well, let's see if your in-game mic works.
Let's get it on.
Yikers. They are tanky as fuck.
Okay.
Alright, let's think about this for a sec.
Hasteful decision
There we go.
lead to untimely ends. The ending will tremble.
Wow. Armadon?
Oh, this is not good. This guy is taking mid.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty cancer. Well,
Let's
Yeah.
try and remake. Let's try and remake.
Fuse the iron in the carbon.
Well, maybe we can just do a lane top and you can roam.
yeah.
I don't
Come,
know.
come top, come top.
It's just not good for me to be alone top, but
Let the sparks fly.
I'm gonna win the lane, it's okay.
The hammer is ready.
If they see my courier, though, that's just game throwing. Yes.
Hasteful decision lead to untimely ends.
I'm passing, but yeah.
Decisions. Steel will hammer upon steel. Hasteful decisions lead to untimely ends.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have a rough lane.
Yeah,
Don't
we
expect
messed
much
up.
from me.
The hammer is ready. Man every bellow. The ending will tremble.
oh, and they pet. Well, maybe we can kill this damn peer. He's already half HP.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe I'll try lane bottom, I don't know.
That would help. They're two.
Steel will hammer upon steel.
Maybe push the lane if you can.
Careful. Careful. Imp.
Can you flee the embrace of fire? Decisions.
Fuck, I messed up.
Well, okay.
Oh man, I want to kill that guy so bad.
Smash first, talk later. Strike while the iron is hot.
Taking top rune. Invis top. Do I take it?
Let the sparks fly.
Just take
You
it.
want it, Polly?
All visibility.
God.
Alright, go.
Thanks, thanks.
Okay, okay. It's good enough. I'll take bottom rune. Alright, Zephyr's game's rune. That's pretty good. Can maybe gang bottom coming. Yo, electrician, he wants to die.
Okay.
Let's see. We should go for Poly Vindicator, actually. They don't know I'm here yet.
Steel will hammer upon steel.
Let's bait
Okay,
them.
okay,
Yeah.
they know. For sure they know.
No, they're here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wrap around. I'm going for Vindicator. I'm going for Vindy right now.
Fuse the iron in the carbon.
I got a stun in 4 seconds. Do we have any spells?
Yeah, go.
The steel before attack.
Okay.
The hammer is ready.
You okay, Guillaume?
Yeah.
Pro offlaner. Okay, Shelly, let me fix that.
The ender will tremble.
Oh fuck! I'm so messed up there. God.
Don't be afraid of the sparks.
Alright.
Strike while the iron is hot.
I can probably come back bottom. No Vindicator. Yeah, carrot top.
Let the sparks fly.
There's a refreshment top. You want it?
Regeneration.
Full decision. Lead to untimely.
Can we kill him?
Je pense pas.
Not
mais
really. Yeah. Whatever. There's a Hellbringer here. I want to jump him so badly. Whatever. Don't. Just get out.
Oh my god. I fucked up.
Decisions.
That was stupid.
Decisions. Fuse the iron in the carbon.
Taking top rune. Illusion top.
Let the sparks fly.
You coming, Polly?
Don't be afraid of the sparks.
Electrician going mid.
Steel will hammer upon steel.
Okay, I'm gonna show top.
We
and
go.
keep
Let's
bottom.
go on Vindy. Let's go on Vindy if you
Yeah.
can catch.
Oh, yo, can we go on him? I'm coming. No. Never mind. I'm just gonna show top but TP bottom.
Okay.
There's only one bottom. Yeah, electrician's there.
Okay, they think I'm top.
Decision.
Going bottom.
Decisions. The ender will tremble. Strike while the iron is hot.
Do they know I'm here? Oh.
Just wrap around on the side.
Well,
I'll try and bait. I'm baiting.
Decision.
Okay, going on Vinny, going on Vinny.
Coolly steer before attacking. Don't be afraid of the sparks. Let the sparks fly.
Here, take this. Take this.
Fuse the iron and the carbon.
Okay, I got my ult now.
Okay, I'm just gonna pull real quick.
Can you flee the embrace of fire? Hasteful decisions lead to untimely end.
Oh, there's Vinny.
I am
Coming.
I hate flag.
Okay.
The hammer is ready.
Invisibility.
Cocksucking Malthus.
The ender will tremble. Well, okay.
Beware.
I don't think we can kill. Well, with Polly we can.
The ender will tremble.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Don't be afraid of the sparks.
Let's find a Hellbringer. I guess this works.
Iron and the carbon.
Try to bait a spell. Try to bait.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
Alright, he's not falling for it.
Let the
We can dive. We
sparks
can probably dive.
fly.
Someone's TPing in. Someone's TPing in. Okay, I'm still. They still don't know I'm here.
Coolly steer
Kill this idiot. There you go.
The ender will tremble. The hammer is ready.
You want to go for this helper?
Communicators here.
Fuse the iron and the carbon. Decisions.
I think we could take this guy.
Well, okay.
3 or 4 top.
Haste
Okay, the wave pushed.
lead to untimely ends. Steel will hammer upon steel. The ender will tremble.
Missing top.
Yeah, let's kill this idiot.
Missing everybody top.
Hammer upon
It
steel.
might be all bottom.
Crush!
Okay, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back.
Don't be afraid of the sparks.
It's about damn time.
Well, okay.
I think we're gonna have problems in team fights. They're all so big and tanky.
Shield breakers, maybe?
Yeah, that seems good.
I thought I knew this mid guy. I'm not
Eric.
sure now. Yeah. He has a screen name that's like that.
It's
but
about
I
damn
don't know if
time.
it's his account.
Let the sparks fly.
He's one of those dudes with like 18
hammer is
million
ready.
different accounts.
I'm coming bottom. Vampir's there. Be careful.
Fuse the iron in the carbon.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure Hellbringer has ult now, so
Yeah.
just be worried.
You know what? We can wrap around. Okay, I'm going for Hellbringer. Okay, they know. But let's go for Hellbringer.
Let the sparks fly.
Where is that kid?
Cool the steel before attacking.
Ultimate Warrior.
First, later.
Okay.
Decisions. Decisions.
Kill secured.
They might jump you here.
Are you ready?
Okay.
You remind me of flag. I hate flag. Steel will hammer upon steel. It will be a good day.
Go for the young. 3 middle.
Fuse the iron in the carbon.
They can
Strike
TP.
while the iron is hot.
Yeah, we should take bottom tower. Regen bot. I'll just take it.
Regeneration.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
The end.
Wow, that's pretty cringe.
Just be careful, they're all on their way bot.
Yeah, let's push middle, Guillaume.
Space created.
Fuse the iron in the carbon.
Can't kill this guy, eh? Well, he's not that tanky. Actually.
They're in our jungle.
Yeah, you're dead. Maybe.
They're coming around behind us. So good job.
I'm ulting. Fight, just fight.
Lava flows freely.
The rest of the team on Malik in there.
I can go in 2 seconds. Nice. Nice.
The hammer is ready. Fuse the iron in the carbon.
That was good, Guillaume.
Greatest Armadon player the world's ever seen.
Well, okay. Strike while the iron is hot.
Not a very sophisticated champion. I bait.
Fuse the iron in the carbon.
We didn't really have any air damage with us.
The hammer is ready.
I have a TP in case something goes down. Pushing top.
Okay.
Keeping in.
The engine will tremble.
Go, go, go.
Cool the steel.
Yeah, go, go, go. He has no mana.
That's all I got.
Hasteful decision.
Got stun in 2 seconds.
Okay. Cool the steel before attacking.
Straight cancer.
Right while the iron is hot.
Okay, armor on.
Steel will
Can I kill the electrician maybe? He's pretty tanky though. Probably not worth it. Very nice.
Don't be afraid of the sparks.
They're all missing. Careful, bot.
Hasteful decision.
Never mind, they're all mid.
Untimely and
Chris, you have PK soon?
No.
So I can take this?
No. Go ahead.
fuse the iron and the carbon.
There's two bot.
Afraid of the sparks.
I've got a TP. We can maybe kill this bird. I got ulti. Oh, Hellbringer's here. Kill him.
Hasteful decision. Lava flows
What?
freely.
Why am I stuck in the trees? That was ridiculous.
The engine will tremble.
I don't know what happened there. Sorry, amigo.
The hammer is ready.
Wow, man.
Je t'ai pris dans les arbres.
Let me
J'ai
down,
j'ai
man.
rien compris, le gros.
Man every bellow. Don't be afraid of the sparks.
That's pretty cute.
Decision.
Is a haste bot.
Beware.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
So let's push bot.
Crush.
Still have not gotten the bot tower.
True.
Strike while the iron is hot.
Guess I can take it. Or Polly, you have bottle.
Hellborn have destroyed a Legion tower.
Fuse the iron and the carbon.
Defend your
Don't
buildings,
be
damn it!
afraid of the sparks.
Yeah, I gotta take this.
It will be a good day.
Okay, they see me bottom, but they see me top, so be careful.
Electrician's all tilted and farming.
Lead to untimely ends. Right while the iron
Oh,
is
that's a
hot.
bad spot, Mr. Polly.
Let the sparks fly. You remind me of Flag. I hate Flag.
Are they Konging?
I think they are.
No, they're not.
Okay. Well, soon.
Fuse the iron and the
I'm
carbon.
gonna force them to TP top.
Yeah.
Man every bellow.
Oh, they will deny the bot tower.
Don't be afraid of the stars. Well, okay.
Can we kill
Coming,
this
Polly. I'm
Scorpio?
coming, Polly. I'm coming. Nice.
Why? No, don't steal my kill, please.
Dude,
No, it's not him.
Cool this
kill this douchebag.
lava flows
Just getting started.
Got any other dumb suggestions, Polly?
Decisions.
What?
Decisions.
Why was that dumb suggestion not to steal my kill?
If I didn't come, Hellbringer was
Can
killing
someone
me.
stack the ancients?
No, the Hellbringer would not kill me.
Okay.
Or we wouldn't have gotten a kill. Anyways.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Maybe that.
Lead to untimely end. Gosh! You remind me of flag. I hate flag. Gosh!
Is someone gonna build demonic or should I?
I can.
The hammer is ready.
What's a good item in this game? I've got PK. Maybe kill this bird.
Hammer upon steel.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Cool this steel before attacking. The ender will tremble.
Okay.
I'm turning.
I'm dead, pretty sure. So, infinite lockdown.
Yeah, silence. Fuck, it's hard.
My bad. That was bot. That was a mistake.
No, that was fine.
What's her Zephyr is evasion, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Should not have gone on bird.
Yeah, they're probably pub training at this point. They have really good team fight.
I'll keep pushing.
Yeah. Called Snap C.
The Hellborn have destroyed a Legion tower.
They keep pushing. Are they still there? Two of them or more?
Sort
I
of.
can TP mid.
Defend your
I don't think they're committing to this. No, they're not committing.
Okay.
Decision.
Is there any bot, though?
Decisions.
Yeah, careful Armadon. GTFO. Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the sparks. Wow. Okay. Strike while the iron is hot. Let the sparks fly! Hasteful decisions lead to untimely
I'm
end.
gonna assume it's 5 middle. Or 4.
Steel will hammer upon steel. Don't be afraid of the sparks.
Okay, I have a TP, guys.
Smash first, talk later.
Invisibility.
Strike while the iron is hot.
How do I need this game? Nullstone? Not
The
really.
sparks fly.
Je vais turn bait.
Okay.
Decisions.
We
Decisions.
baited some TPs now. They TP'd top.
Okay. Okay, good.
Steel will
Well,
hammer
I think
upon
one
steel.
TP top. Vindicator only.
Vindy's bottom. It's
Yeah, keep
Zephyr.
pushing. I mean, they TP'd bot. I mean, we have an invis poly. Let's go.
Don't be afraid of the sparks. Well, okay.
They all TP there. I'm
Okay,
gonna keep pushing
pushing
top. Gosh, what do I need? Shelly, any suggestions?
Pushing mid up.
Yeah, good.
Don't be afraid of the sparks.
Maybe Nullstone's like the play. It's not great though. Tablet of Command.
Hasteful
I'm running there.
Is Zephyr still bot?
Strike while the iron is hot.
Zeph's
Well,
coming
we have
in.
endgame. We have late game, they don't, so.
Illusion.
Don't be afraid of the sparks. Steel will hammer upon steel. Strike while the iron is hot.
Just push mid, maybe?
Man every bellow.
Oh, this doesn't work.
Well, okay. The hammer is ready.
Go in there, Joe.
Can we get this guy top?
Steel
Yeah, they don't have electrician.
Decisions.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
Fly.
I think they have vision.
Strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah, electrician's dropping a lot of wards and counters.
Okay, they're all missing. Careful.
Upon steel.
I have a barrier
They may be
idol.
Konging. I think they might be.
There's a ward here.
Can you flee the embrace of fire? The hammer is ready. Let the sparks fly.
Go. Push.
Just take tower, yeah. If they try anything funny, I can counter initiate.
Yeah. Just let me tank it. They can't do anything.
Yeah. It's free tower. Just two bottom.
Damn it!
We should jump them, actually.
Decision.
I'm gonna jump in.
Legion have destroyed a Hellborn tower.
Yeah.
The Hellborn have destroyed a Legion tower.
Just gonna apply pressure mid.
Okay,
The hammer is
Push mid, push.
pop my barb.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
Oof, I'm running there.
Oh, this is perfect. They blew everything
Down here?
down.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
That was a good tank.
Steel will hammer upon steel. Decisions.
I had to go bot. I had no more HP. Just farm this. My demonic breastplate's on the way.
Okay.
Dude, I need to buy an item. I don't know what to buy.
The ender will tremble.
There's two
Maybe
top.
shrunken.
Careful.
Yeah.
Peaceful decision. Lead to untimely ends.
There's three top. I'm gonna keep pushing bot.
So sheep stick. I'm buying sheep stick, I guess.
Strike while the iron is hot. Steel will hammer upon steel.
Can we do Kongor?
Maybe I can kill this guy.
Smashing.
Peaceful
Nice.
decision. Lead to untimely ends.
That's how you man up.
Okay, good.
Can we take their Kong?
I don't know.
I don't know if we can.
Our team is not that great against Kong. We have demonic.
Let the sparks fly.
Oh, this guy's dead.
Is he?
Go on him.
Crush.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Slowed.
It's pretty tanky.
He's slowed.
Fuse
I've got a stun in 2 seconds. I don't know. It sounds bad. Looks bad. Looks bad.
I've got haste room.
Okay.
Oh, this guy.
attack.
Whoa, we have a Malkin in the house.
If you can slow him, he's dead. Yeah. So
Wow.
dead. Let's go mid.
Nice job.
Good job.
Yeah, we
That's very
can.
nice.
Yeah, we have ulti on Poly. That's a free tower.
Cute free racks. Wow.
The Legion have destroyed a Hellborn tower.
What?
Get the racks, get the racks.
Yeah.
No one is going to save you. A Hellborn barracks has been destroyed. Hellborn barracks has been destroyed.
They can't kill me.
Afraid of the
Too strong.
sparks. Let the sparks fly.
Can we Kong now? We've got a mid racks. We should take both Kongs.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can take theirs.
Well, we should take ours at least.
I'm pushing.
Double damage. Okay, with DD you can do it.
Tremble.
We can do it. Malikan can do it easy.
Hasteful decisions lead to untimely ends.
Let's just do it.
Well, okay.
Let's go. Let's go.
Alright. Yeah, Malkin can do it. I mean, I'll just create space while you guys do it. I'm not really useful in Kongor.
Steel will hammer
This is
upon
gonna give me
steel.
heart.
Why are they chasing? Okay, they had vision there. They're chasing me.
Then will tremble.
You guys are safe.
Strike while the iron is hot.
Kongor has been slain.
Steel will hammer upon steel.
Double
Decisions.
damage.
Decisions.
Just gonna walk up fog.
We can control their jungle.
Tremble.
Let's whack this
Is
up.
ready. Let the sparks fly.
Okay, I can just tank this tower. You guys can wait to counter initiate.
To untimely
Hang on, I've got Savage Mace on me.
Ah, you're pretty tanky, Guillaume.
steel will hammer upon
Pretty
steel.
Yeah, I'm
disgusting.
super tanky. They can't do anything against me.
Oh, this is when Armadon's fun. Alright, they're blowing stuff
Oh
on
my God.
Armadon. Lol, that tickled.
Hang on, amigos.
Lol, okay, I'm going in.
Go, 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 go.
The steel before attack.
We got stun in 3 seconds. Good game. Get Jimmy.
Double
See?
tap.
Cute little shit stains trying to kill me.
Choo-choo, motherfucker.
Yep, that was retarded.
Legion have destroyed a Hellborn tower. A Hellborn
Walk,
barracks
don't jump.
has been destroyed. A Hellborn
Yeah.
barracks has been destroyed.
Let's give it to Whoopalai.
4 votes on Zephyr. What the fuck?
Yeah, but 5 on Whoopalai.
Un
Who
gros
votes for
tanky
this Zephyr,
midon.
man?
I would have given it to myself, but you know.
MV Pizzle. Good game.
The sweet taste of victory.
Some pro support by
Legion
Maze.
wins!
She is much better than this Glacius that I usually play with.
Thanks.
That's all I ever do. For it.
Yeah, all Chris does is just like sit in the lane, leech experience, jerk off.
I can play one last game if you guys
Yes.
want.
I should probably go to bed. Everyone in my house has the flu. I'm like trying to hang in there and not get the flu.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's why you need to play while you still have your
Good point.
strength.
I need to sleep.
You need your strength.
Nah, I gotta go to bed. Good
Alright.
game.
No. GG.
Have a good night.
Yes.
All right.
Alright. T'as vu, Guillaume? T'as vu, Guillaume? Armadan offlane, c'est pas si mauvais, là.
Non, mais au début, tu m'as aidé quand même, là.
Yeah, fallait que j'aide tout le monde, là. Tout le monde était, you know.
Well, they
Au début,
had cancer lanes.
T'as pull des lanes, puis... moi, je sais, ouais.
Yeah, I was everywhere in the middle, in the early game. Wrecked Zephyr, no, I guess helped bottom. Anyways. Comme je pense Armadan, si t'es vraiment high skilled, tu peux l'offlane.
Yeah, well, I don't really know how to offlane, so...
Faut que tu joues vraiment agressif, là. Comme dès que tu vois Hellbringer, tu spams ton W, puis tu vas vers lui, genre. And you just cause a lot of chaos comme ça. Éventuellement, comme l'idée c'est que si t'arrives avec plus de regen que lui, puis t'es un melee hero, puis t'as un shield, comme éventuellement il va réaliser que ça sert à rien de te harass. Puis c'est là que t'es un free lane, là. C'est comme je checkais les pros Dota players qui jouaient à Armadan offlane, puis c'est ça, just hyper aggressive.
Well, how can you do that though?
Like the first thing you do, like once the creeps clash, you eat a tree, even if you're full HP. You eat a tree and then you just run towards the support. So you got a shield, you got a tree regen. Yeah,
Just run.
yeah, because like you got 7 regen a second. You got a shield, your Armadan. So like the support has to fear you. And like once he can't zone you out, then lane is won. Armadan in Dota is a lot stronger though. TBH. Well,
Bristleback.
that might be true. But I don't know, I outflamed a few times with Armadan. It's okay.
Ban a hero.
Who counters Glacius? Dark Lady. And this piece of trash. Clank. Wow, all Worms heroes are banned.
Yikers. Well, that's why we're trying to learn Malakin.
I might just play deadlift support.
Oh, Miss Hole is not playing.
Choose wisely.
Yes.
This freaking kid. Yikers. I might be in trouble if nobody picks. Wow, is it gonna random one of us? Okay, I like when we have a tank.
Yes.
I don't like Chronos. I really don't like Chrono.
I'm not sure what the idea is against a Valk and a Pyro. Okay, nice. That's amazing.
Perfect.
Nice.
But they kind of have a gay combo. But whatever. We need a Devo.
Devar. Maybe Flint Peastwood is the play.
Flint.
I mean, I'm gonna pick Mally for now, but Mage Bane, probably not good.
Yeah, there's not enough lockdown on our team for you to pick Flint.
Malikan.
Okay, well, with a Hammer Storm and an armor, I guess Flint would have been GTO.
Yeah, this is
Random Hammer Storm. Oh, okay.
God. This
So now I'm going to need.
that guy's jerking off.
Polymorph priest.
Well, our team is tanky, but au bombardier.
Maybe.
Dude, they have
Who else
so
can I
much team fight.
Yeah, we're in
What can I
trouble.
pick for mid? Bombardier, il peut comme caster des spells au range. Là.
Yeah, actually Bombardier is pretty decent against Kronos.
He's Soul Reaper, maybe?
Bombardier.
Bombardier. Kronos. Who says that?
Kronos. Kraken says that.
Yeah, there you go.
Kronos.
He sounds American for like, yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah. Kronos.
I don't know why this bleach white CC don't like me.
Ice, baby.
What's a good item here?
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
We don't see you play engineer anymore.
Yeah, I don't think he's that great anymore.
Man, they have
Frostfield
really
will be
sick
proud.
team fight.
Yeah.
Like the slither slow and damage over time.
It's really disgusting. We can't really team fight them.
Holly push, Kronos with the mass stun basically.
But we just punished them like we did the last team. Like they were always pod trading, so we just pushed in top and middle. And we did the dead lane. Nobody was pushing bottom. It was perfect.
Kronos. You guys have mics? Kronos.
Fuck China.
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
Hey, you guys think this is funny, eh?
Bombardier. Guillaume, va falloir que tu carry mid. Là. We're gonna lose if you don't win mid.
Yeah.
C'est pas plus compliqué que ça.
Yeah, so Armadon's gonna build barrier.
It's gonna be a tough game.
I can build
Play
domes.
better.
Frostfield will be proud.
Perfect.
Kronos.
Who's bottom?
Valkyrie.
Okay, that's pretty easy. He's on route for a bit.
Oh my god.
Alright, game's over.
I'll get the barrier.
It's an offlane Valkyrie, so careful top. Might be a tri-lane top.
Okay.
No, just two middle.
You have a dual mid.
A little frostbite won't hurt.
Okay.
Fighting for mid.
Well, this should be pretty easy.
Ice, baby. Chill out, chilly.
I'm gonna pull.
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails. I will persevere.
Enemy hero missing from bottom.
Missing bottom.
She might be in the trees.
Your bones will work like ice. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Ice, ice, baby.
What about a Valkyrie? I'm going on her.
Yo, could you take off your cleave? Take off your cleave. You're pushing the lane.
Just keep farming.
More than a polar bear's toenails.
Take your cleave off. Take your cleave off. You hear me, Anna? Right.
I'll put you on ice.
Take your cleave off.
I'll show you why they call me Glacius. Your bones will break like ice. Frostfield will be proud. I will control this power.
Okay.
I'll put you on ice.
Sloan?
Chilly.
I'm gonna pull.
I'll show you why they call me Glacius.
Beware.
Freeze. I will persevere.
Touched for the very first time.
Very nice. I'm gonna take bot rune.
Chilly. Frostfield will be proud. Ice.
Haste bottom, taking it.
Haste.
Can we kill Polywog?
Maybe.
Okay, that's weird.
We can kill him too. Wow. That was a high level of intelligence on display.
Yes. Alright, let's sync up.
Frostfield will be proud.
Sync up, sync up. Come. I need to go stack.
Freeze.
Come sync with me. You go farm,
I'll put you on ice.
We can get kills mid, I think, if you come again. Maybe you get the rune at bot. If you get a rune bot, we can kill these guys mid again.
Yes. I'm gonna pull again. Actually,
My destiny is in my hands.
okay. Taking bot rune.
I will control this power.
Regen, just take it.
Regeneration.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
I'm gonna pull the lane.
Chilly.
Beware.
We gotta sync up.
Ice, ice, baby. Cold-blooded.
Beware.
Cooler than a
Come
polar
here.
bear's
Alright,
toenails.
it's fine.
Beware.
Chilly.
Okay, go. Sing.
Chill out, buddy.
Time to sync up, man.
Beware.
My destiny is in my hands.
You gonna pull again?
Yes.
Fight won't hurt, but a lot will kill you.
Baku's not having a good game.
No.
Freeze.
I think this is funny, yeah?
Chill out, buddy.
Taking bot rune, I think. Oh, I can kill him maybe.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
Your bones will break like ice.
Feel the frost!
Nice.
I will persevere.
Glacius, how are you level 7 already?
Best player in the world.
No, just asking.
That's my answer.
I'll put you on ice.
Stun him. Stun him, stun him, stun him, stun him, stun him.
Frostfield will be proud.
You're on the wrong side, man. Yeah.
Okay.
Stun him, Hammer.
My destiny is in my hands. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Kill this guy.
I will persevere.
Serial killer smackdown. Double tap.
Bones will break like ice.
Ultimate warrior hat trick.
Sync up.
Chilly. Chill out, buddy.
This game is so...
Take that last hit.
Frostfield will be proud. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
I'll put you on ice. I will control this power.
Qu'est-ce comment ça il bouge vite de même là? Oh il est hasty.
A little frostbite won't hurt, but a lot will kill you. Freeze.
Haste is slowly going bottom.
Oh my god.
I don't know if I can help
Oh
you.
yes. Ah oui, t'as dit he's going bot, fait que j'ai assumé qu'il allait au bot, puis...
Frostfield will be proud.
Puis là, ils sont arrivés direct là les deux.
Il m'a truqué.
I'll put you on ice. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Guess in middle.
Chill. I'll show you Magmus Glacius. My destiny is in my hands.
Absolutely spiffy.
Won't hurt, but love will kill you. I will persevere. Cold-blooded.
Where'd you just go?
Slither going for top rune.
Smackdown.
I will control this power.
Slither's got DD, he's going top.
Your bones will break like ice.
Let's get him. Get him.
Taking bot rune.
But a lot will kill you.
Oh, we got a hammer storm here.
The Legion have destroyed a Hellborn tower.
My destiny.
Je peux TP au mid là.
Feel the slaughter. Talk me again. I dare you.
Know your place, peasant.
Oh my god, he's coming to you, but I can back you up.
Yeah, you can bait. There's my bait. Is he dead?
He's not gonna die, no, he's not gonna
You have your
die.
ulti? You have your ulti? Just ulti him.
No, I don't have ulti.
No, he doesn't have it.
Oh, what? Are you kidding me? Valk ult.
Wow, now we're in trouble.
I don't think so. Valk is low. Oh, there's
Oh
a
my
Valk.
god. Lol.
Epic plays.
Okay, let's push this.
Push, push, push. It's low. It's low.
Chilly.
Keep going. Force them to rotate.
The Legion have destroyed a Hellborn tower.
Slither went mid and didn't take wards.
Alright. Just gonna go towards mid.
Back up.
I will persevere. Frostfield.
Vision.
Non, je la prends, je la prends.
Yeah, I want to kill this Slither so bad.
Invisibility.
Wow, okay.
Okay.
I think you can back armor on.
I will persevere.
You're fine.
Alright, shove the lane. Pyro might try to ult you.
Let him try.
Chilly.
Medium. Oh, polywog.
Is anyone gonna build it?
I'm just getting started.
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
Got fucking ward traps.
Fight here.
Your bones will break like ice.
Oh my god, on our hammer storm.
Whoa, okay.
I will control this power.
You're crazy, man.
But a lot will kill you.
Yeah, you're actually crazy.
My destiny is in my hands. Revenge is a dish.
Taking top rune.
Oh, I got it, I got it.
Chilly.
Ref kill stop.
Frostfield will be proud. Ice, ice.
Don't touch my tower!
Oh, I think they saw me.
Oh, Kronos. Yeah. Bait his sleep, bait his sleep. Okay.
Next.
Cooler than a polar bear's toenail. I will persevere.
Is anyone gonna build demonic?
I will control this power.
There's Polly wants to die. Yeah. Come.
Oh my god.
Come.
Oh,
Here,
yeah.
look, I got Revord. I got Revord.
Your bones will break.
Bow before me.
I will persevere. Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
Come. I can heal you.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for good. I'm just trying to have a good position.
Yeah, I'm gonna heal you.
Frostfield will be proud. I will persevere.
Yeah, they think we're back. We're full HP again. That's gonna be beautiful.
I will control this power.
Yeah.
Fight here.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
Chill out. My destiny is in my hands. A little frost.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Choo-choo, motherfucker!
Slow down. Need more time.
Double tap! Yes! 3 men down! I repeat, 3 men down!
Yeah, Slitter's really cancer. He's got that stupid thing.
I don't know how to counter that. Does Storm Spirit counter that?
Sort of, yeah. Regarde, tu prends pas de damage pendant genre quoi, 2.5 secondes là. I guess I just need Mystic Vestments.
I hate Slither.
Yeah, I need Vestments. I gotta build gnomes. I need the magic armor.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Be careful. They're gonna jump you.
Okay.
He just uses ult.
Yep.
Maybe turn, Polly? I'm just gonna ult you. F it.
Bear's toenails.
Dude, this guy is so hard to kill.
Oh, fuck. Gonna die.
Oh, you have spells?
This can die.
Coming behind.
Ice, baby.
Wall. I can stun him.
Slow down.
Okay. Okay, buddy.
Tasty!
My destiny is in my hands.
Oh, this Malik in this farm,
Frostfield
man.
will be proud.
I'm right here.
Ice, baby.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
Oh,
A little frostbite will
oh la la.
Yeah. Yeah, stay here.
freeze.
None.
I'm coming. Bait.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, you're 5-second arrowed. Rip. You don't have mana though.
Fight here.
What? Is this kid serious? Oh, he's... yeah, can't go.
Invisibility.
This Malik is so strong. Wow.
Frostfield will be proud.
Beware.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Know your place, peasant. Say.
Your bones will break like ice.
Which means the runes water, they saw you.
I will persevere. Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
Yeah, if you can stun, she's dead. I'll try and make her leap into you.
My destiny is in my hands. A little frostbite won't hurt.
What's my name? What you gonna do about it?
I will persevere. Chill out, buddy. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Petit Glacius, il en fait du damage.
Ouais. Enfin, on aurait peut-être pu le tuer. Avec ton ultimate, puis mon ultimate.
Ouais, mais j'étais trop loin. Mon ultimate il est plus global range.
Ah, il est plus global. Ok.
Non. C'est juste avec staff qui est global range.
Let's go place a ward.
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
Trying to farm the jungle.
Ice, ice.
Yeah, it's good.
They have wards there.
There's slither wards here. They saw me.
Beware.
A little frostbite.
Yeah, Polly saw me. They're invis.
They're coming.
They're invis.
Yeah, let them jump me.
Okay.
Fight here.
Slowly making my way there.
Ah, stupid arrow, you kidding me? Yeah, that was just dumb. Dude, their team fight is...
Dude, look how long they were focusing
Come on,
me
come
for. Like, they were literally attacking me for like over 2 minutes. Literally.
Like 2 literal... Whoa, I don't know about this.
What is Hamstrung doing?
Okay, that's big.
Like, they were attacking me for like 2 minutes. When Slither gets ult staff, that's probably gonna be a real problem.
Say my name.
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
They're gonna need a BKB,
That's what I'm farming next.
There's way too much magic damage.
Frostfield will be proud.
You got your gnomes, huh?
Yes.
I'll have
Fight here.
the barrier by the next fight.
I'll show you why they call me Glacius.
Just a few minutes. Just a few.
Let's take our Kongor after I clear triple H.
Okay. Be careful of Valkyrie ults and come here.
Yep. Nox bottom is fine.
Just keep an eye on her.
Okay, they're kind of jumping on
There it
them.
is.
Yeah. Can't really go there. That's a problem. Just run. We can't do anything.
Dude, help me. Give me a heal.
Fuck. Free.
I'm coming.
It's gonna be a big turn. It's gonna be a big turn.
I'm coming big.
Oh yeah, this is good. This is gonna be big.
Guys, do you see how long I've been alive? Does anyone see this?
Il est très impressionné, le gars.
Ouais.
I got heals. I got
Comment
heals.
je suis bon?
Ouais.
T'as vu comment je suis bon?
Thank you for turning around, fucking Glacius.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Got another heal.
C'est quoi qui heal de même?
Soul Trap. C'est comme un urn of...
Legion have destroyed
Ah,
a
il me
hell
semble que ça
was
fait
so
un
close
burst
to
de heal
death.
au lieu de juste un
My
heal.
barrier actually fucking saved me.
Yes. This Kronos might be dead. This Kronos might actually just be dead. Nah.
Chilly. Ice, baby. Revenge is a dish best served cooked.
They have nowhere to farm because I'm farming out their jungle.
Yes.
Smashing.
I will persevere.
Fight here.
Let's kill this word. Okay.
Slow down.
Why does team keep team fighting without me?
Yes.
Frostfield will be proud.
I'm around. Oh.
Wow.
Buff now, nigga.
I'll show you why they call me Glacius.
Yeah, there's
Just
a
take the
free
tower,
homecoming
Matt.
stone
They're
here.
top. They're top, Matt.
Okay.
This is actually your homecoming stone, Glacius.
I will persevere.
What?
You dropped your homecoming stone on the floor.
Yes. Take it if you want.
You don't have to tell me that twice.
Chilly. I'll show you why they call me Glacius.
Invisibility.
Look out, look out.
Yeah, they're actually so mad. They can't farm at all.
Yeah, because they have no jungle. It's fucking locking them out.
Malkin can probably take
Kongor.
Kongor alone, yeah.
Revenge is a dish best served cold. I will control this power.
I think they've alculted to the Rev Ward. Nah.
Oh, Valkyrie just ulted there.
Alright. You can wait next to the Rev Ward.
Got Malikin.
Okay, they're all bot to Malachi. Let's go.
Frostfield will be proud.
Oh my god, that's
Game's over.
Told you.
push.
Chilly.
Can we actually push?
Oh, they're on me.
Yeah, you're baiting. Good bait.
Okay, I have
Why
a
does he keep
global
going
range
on you?
ult now.
This kid is so retarded.
That puzzle box.
Nice. Keep going.
Slow down.
Feel the frost.
Oh, big. Go.
Okay.
I'm gonna die. Fucking old staff.
Fuck.
This fucking Slither, man. Fuck.
Yeah, he's
I don't
got
know
staff
why
now.
They keep going on me, man. Fuck.
5-second arrow coming. Careful, Gil. Okay.
Regeneration.
Okay, we can do this.
Let's do that.
I will persevere.
Let's go do their combo immediately.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah, let's go.
Is that a good idea?
It's a great idea. We have a huge advantage.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
A huge.
I'm
great
coming,
advantage.
mate.
Chilly.
Harlequin, est-ce que t'as un ultimate upgrade, toi?
Chill out.
Je pense que oui, hein.
Oui.
Je vais te le donner.
I don't have detection. No detection. No, they're invis. I have no detection. Nice, he missed. Oh.
God, yes.
Oh my god.
LOL.
He's gonna get a big stun.
I'm dying to Slither.
Oh, they got Kongor?
They got the Kongor kill.
That's so gay. I gotta heal for you, Guillaume.
Yo. Fucking Slither, man.
It's okay, they keep going for you. That just wins us the team fight.
I'll show you why they call me Glacius.
Oh, should I go PK or staff? I guess staff at this point.
Matt, I'm gonna give you that ultimate upgrade.
Yo, no, against the one, à moi.
Oh, I think Malikan's better.
Dude, my ulti on staff is
Yeah,
insane.
give it to Glacius.
Oh, je te dis, c'est malade mental, mon ultimate.
C'est vraiment malade.
What the fuck counters that Slither also, man?
Just what you built. I mean, he keeps wasting it on you. It's really good.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Ok, fait je le donne à Glacius.
100%.
My destiny is
There you
in
go.
my hands.
C'est quoi ça fait sur Malikan? Ça fait tes 20 secondes de cooldown, je pense?
14 secondes.
I'll show
Yeah,
you
you're
why
just
they
always
call
in your
me
ult form.
Glacius.
You should have given the Staff of the Master to Hammerstorm. His new ulti is great. The Staff of Master.
Have you seen Glacius's?
Yeah, but remember, everyone on the team gets 35% increased base damage when he ultis.
Wow, je savais pas ça.
Be proud.
Valkyrie just ulted.
I'm just getting started.
What the fuck?
Why they call me Glacius.
Oh, fuck.
Invisibility.
I will control this power.
Legendary.
Wow.
Frostfield will be proud.
Got my kill, man. Fuck.
Ice, ice, baby.
Damn, look at damage I'm taking from this. You see this? Like, Slither is literally hurting me.
My destiny is in my hands.
What? Where'd that come from?
Revenge is
Valkyrie.
Yeah, I was asking direction.
I will persevere.
Defend your buildings, damn it!
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
Oh.
Chill.
He's in the tree.
Yes.
Ok, pour vrai, si on est tous avec le Armored On, là, il peut juste tanker la tour, puis nous on counter-initiate. Là.
Slither now.
Well, they see hammer bottom, they might jump us.
Hopefully they do. Mannequin's right around.
Yeah.
Valkyrie ulted, Valkyrie ulted.
Okay.
Valkyrie ulted. Okay, let's go. Let's go get this tower
My
bot.
destiny is in my hands.
Onslaught. Nemesis.
Revenge is a dish that serves cool.
Can go back in 2 seconds.
God, this.
Can we find that? Can we find that?
Where's my team?
They're all frozen. Just end this.
Destroy the Hellborn Tower. Lich.
7 sick.
Go to hammer. Go to hammer.
Good bait, hammer.
Back, please.
I can heal you.
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Focus one tower.
Your bones will break your bones.
The Legion have destroyed a Hellborn Tower. A Hellborn barracks has been destroyed. A Hellborn barracks has been destroyed.
Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
They're gonna jump me. They're gonna jump
This yes, man.
me.
They're gonna jump you.
A little frostbite will but a lot
You might have to back. We don't have Malakin. Yeah, I think we should back.
No.
We're not gonna back.
surely you will call me Glacius. Cooler than a polar bear's toenails.
Okay.
Il est cave ce gars-là.
I'm waiting for Chrono Salt.
Oh my god.
I got a huge ulti off. Look at that.
Choo-choo, motherfucker. The Legion have destroyed a Hellborn Tower.
Big Bear, it's a three-way. Gotcha.
Lol de Malakin.
A Hellborn barracks has been destroyed to save you. A Hellborn barracks has been destroyed. The Legion have destroyed a Hellborn Tower.
Why am I not eligible? Alright, I'm with Falcon.
Don't think I deserve it. Probably give it to Bomb. But I'm gonna say
Pour vrai, I had 15 kills.
Me too.
I didn't. I
Falcon will take it.
Oh my god.
Merci.
Bro, j'ai plus de kills que toi. Oh my god.
Au plus que 15 kills.
Ouais.
The Legion have destroyed a Hellborn tower.
Moi pis toi, on avait de la bonne position dans toutes les fights. On était en arrière, on cassait nos spells puis on faisait attention.
Yeah.
Ok, bon, on va me coucher.
Ok.
Bon.
Bonne nuit.
Puis en tout cas, les Canadiens ont gagné, fait qu'on est bien contents.
Wow.
Ah, mais Guillaume, ils font-tu les playoffs?
Ben, ils sont genre 8e, tu sais. Ils sont toujours 8, 9e, 8, 9e. Là,
Ah ouais, on va aller voir.
Je pense
NHL,
qu'après la victoire de ce soir, oui. Mais c'est comme super tough.
On va aller voir les standings. Montréal, last place.
Montréal is 3rd place in Atlantic in the playoffs.
Ah, son 8e.
Yeah, son 8e overall, sauf que avec les de division, sont 3e dans leur division. Avec 38 points. Mais c'est vraiment tête, là.
Ouais, Guillaume. Oh, fort. Wow, Buffalo's ahead of Montreal. Tu sais que ton équipe est à chier quand Buffalo.
Trop hot.
Wow, Saint-Louis, first place. Aucune surprise.
On va voir le classement. NHL.
Washington, Boston, les deux meilleures équipes.
Ouais, comment ça, ils sont forts de même, Washington?
Washington sont toujours forts.
Boston, c'est toujours fort. Là.
Ouais.
Ben, il y a une raison pourquoi, là, Guillaume. Ils ont des meilleurs managers.
Oui.
T'es d'accord avec ça?
Ben, attends, explique-moi pourquoi Boston, ils crush tout le temps, puis Montréal, c'est tout le temps des pourritures.
Bonne question.
Non, mais Boston, genre, quand ils étaient contenders, tu sais, quand ils ont gagné la coupe.
Ouais.
Ouais, voilà 4 ans. Là.
Oh, non, ça fait bien plus longtemps que ça. C'est en 2010 qu'ils ont gagné la coupe.
Mais la dernière fois que les Canadiens ont gagné, c'était quand?
C'est en 93, là.
Guillaume,
non, mais sauf que Boston, comme quand ils ont gagné la coupe, ils ont fait des bons trucs. Genre, au lieu d'essayer de garder leur équipe puis de payer tout le monde fucking cher, ils ont tout de suite fait une transition puis ils ont tout de suite échangé les joueurs. Puis là, ça leur a permis d'avoir plein de first round picks. Fait que, comme ils sont revenus dans le race, tu comprends?
Guillaume, est-ce qu'on est encore en train de souffrir sous les effets de Bob Gainey, tu penses? Sérieux, ça se peut, là?
Non, on va me coucher.
It was a serious question. It was actually a serious question.
Ok, bye.
Ok, bye.